Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is DeadlyDrew at Drew Gelati, and I will be your caster this evening for the NECC Division 8 Nationals. This is the Division 8 Nationals for Overwatch 2. Welcome in. We are going to be starting very soon here. I believe our first map is going to be Dorado. Welcome in, everyone. Like I said, my name is DeadlyDrew. I will be your Shoutcaster for tonight's match. Big match here tonight for the Post Eagles and the Fort Lewis College Gold. Fort Lewis Gold is their team name. This is the Division 8 Nationals for Overwatch 2. We've got two excellent teams ready to duke it out here in a best of 5 to decide who moves on to the second round in this NECC National Playoffs. So, introducing the home team first tonight for Fort Lewis Gold. We have player number 1, Hefe, player number 2, Oreo Snorter, player number 3, that'll be a fun one to commentate on, player number 3, Leonis, player number 4, Icer Han, player 5, Koopa, and player 6, Saya. And for your away team tonight, your Post-University Eagles, there is a starting lineup of Moridin, Cryjoys, Lion Pies, Celestialjo, My Dudesa, Neontoxin, MultiKel, King23, and Wildfire. Those are all players listed for Post. They will usually end up rotating players in and out depending on what composition or what opposition they are faced. Got a really good match coming up here. Looks like the home team has selected their map choice, which is Fort Lewis on Dorado. With this 5v5 matchup here, it'll be interesting to see what compositions are brought. There has been a new hero brought into the game as well recently, Freya. She is a DPS character, so it'll be interesting to see if any teams dare to use her in this playoff scenario. Especially in the first round, one team might try tricks, one team might try aggression. It'll be interesting to see what compositions they start out with as well. So we have our matchup ready for tonight, our playoffs for the Division 8 Overwatch 2 Nationals. These are the playoffs. So we are about to start here in about 2 to 3 minutes, and we will hop right into the game when we come back from this quick break. Thanks for staying with us. Like I said, I am your caster, DeadlyDrew, and we'll be right back with some more collegiate esports action. welcome back to this NECC Division 8 Nationals Overwatch 2 game between the Post-University Eagles and Fort Lewis College. Both teams are in lobby. We have our starting lineups in-game, and we are deciding right now, they are deciding on map picks and map bans. So the game will be starting very, very shortly here. Apologies for the delay. And we will be underway momentarily. I believe the first map is going to be Dorado, which is on the screen right now. That is what is being displayed, and that is what they are talking about right now. Welcome in, everyone. I see everyone in chat. Good to see everyone. And we will be starting momentarily here. Exciting matchup here between the Post-University Eagles and the Fort Lewis College Gold. That's what their team name is, Fort Lewis College Gold Team. And this is round 1 of the NECC National Championship playoffs. It'll be interesting to see how both of these teams, these collegiate teams, start out tonight. Whether we see some aggression, as both of these teams are going to be hungry to get that first win, especially get that first map win, and then hopefully for Post-University to continue on, they will need to win this best of 5 series. So be very interesting to see here. Looks like Nepal is going to be the first map coming up now. Looks like we had a last minute map ban and swap. So I am your caster, DeadlyDrew, here at Drew Gelati. Good to see everyone. Good to see everyone in chat. And we will be right back with the start of this match between Post-University Eagles versus Fort Lewis Gold in this national championship round 1. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And welcome back. We are on Nepal for our first match here between the Post-University Eagles and Fort Lewis College. Both teams on their hero selection screen right now. Both teams looking to capture the middle point of this map. It'll be interesting to see what compositions are brought out here at the start. Looking forward to seeing some collegiate post-university college action here. I know these guys have been grinding, as I have had the opportunity to spectate them most of this season, especially into the playoffs. So I think they have a good chance as well as taking this. But hey, it's anyone's game at the moment. Game is about to start, about to be underway here. Pleasure to have everyone in. Welcome into this NECC Division 8 Nationals for the playoffs. Post-University Eagles versus the Fort Lewis College Gold Team. So it looks like we are going to be starting out with Iserhan here on Fort Lewis as they start for a top push here, as Post-University advised to go for the bottom control and go straight for point. Iserhan on the Soldier 76. And we have a Junker Queen as well on board here with Oreo Snorter as well from Fort Lewis. Both teams trying to get on this point. Oreo Snorter here on the Reaper, trying to find a pick, but Post-University doing a good job staying grouped up together. Trying to get some damage in on that Mei, but she blocks and instantly gets health back. Fort Lewis here starting to get a couple picks. On board with MultiKel here, Post-University. Main tank player eventually falls. And it looks like Fort Lewis will grab the cap right back from Post-University. 31% though, so not a wasted push for Post-University. Especially on that first point, getting past 25% there. guaranteeing yourself at least a last fight if need be. The Post University not worried about that. Grouped up right now. Nice Symmetra portal by Krystal. On board here with Neontoxin doing his best to keep the team alive. Eventually getting picked in the back though. The Juno from Fort Lewis, Saya, doing a good job of getting some offensive picks, and that's going to be a team wipe in the favor of Fort Lewis Gold here. Juno doing a very nice job for Fort Lewis there, getting aggressive. Very, very good healer Juno is. She has the ability to do some good poke damage as well as put out good heals. She's a little bit of both. Gonna hop on board here with Krystal from Post University, trying to establish control of this point. Ults come out. A lot of ults, trying to sustain the Reaper ult and back off point. Will she use her ult there? No. Krystal will hold ult. Smart play, as there was a Junker Queen right in her face. It looks like Post University is starting to stabilize here a little bit, as Fort Lewis is starting to give. Taking way too much damage is the Junker Queen for Fort Lewis, Fox God. And nice job. Even though a lot of ults came out there for Fort Lewis, the majority of their DPS ults there, all of them actually, all they have is their one healer ult for their Juno left. Nice job by Moridin there to wall them off and split that retreat up. Post University right now doing an excellent job on about to tie this percentage here. Got to be careful of that Reaper trying to sneak in and grab the back line. MultiKel right now. May going to ult Moridin. MultiKel doing a good job, just using his shield, staying back on the Ramatra, trying to bait Fort Lewis in to point. But now that Fort Lewis has some low health players, he's going to activate his ult here. As Fort Lewis starts to push in, finds the Junker Queen, very weak. Not able to find any picks with his ult though, doing a lot of good splash and poke damage here. Finally finds the picks as the healing output for Fort Lewis finally starts to go, sorry, having some technical mic issues here. There we go, fix that. On board here with Iserhan on the Sombra. One of the most banned characters now that Overwatch has bans finally established. I know a lot of people have been waiting to click ban on her.
Gotta go.
Very close game here. Post University at 99%, guaranteeing them at least one more team fight here. But they're going to have to touch point for this overtime. Iserhan does not have ult, but looking to at least get a hack on someone. Post University doing a great job. The Lucio player here for Post University. KingJackson, a great speed boost in. Totally avoided the Sombra. And Post University able to just run right through Fort Lewis's defense there. Get onto point. Sombra did not have her ult ready. And that is going to be the first point of the game for Post University. Great job by KingJackson there. He didn't even know the Sombra was behind their whole team because he was the Sombra was invisible. But great job of speeding everyone in with a nice speed boost. I do not think Fort Lewis was ready for that speed boost and for them to be on point so quickly. So nice job by the Post University healers there to establish point control very quickly when they needed to, when it was a 99-99 game. So we are now here on map 2 of Nepal. Post University up 1-0 in this NECC Division 8 National Playoffs. It does not look like there's any swaps coming out for Post University here. Don't fix it if it ain't broken. But it does look like the Fort Lewis has changed up their DPS from the Reaper Soldier now to an Ashe Bastion, and also going with an Ana pick. And also mirroring the Ramatra, as MultiKel has been a menace on Ramatra for Post University this entire season. Ramatra in a super strong place right now, and players are taking advantage of just his splash damage and just how well he's able to keep players out of point. Just his consistent poke damage, and just the fact that he can make himself big to tank a lot of damage as well. So, another tank that does a lot of absorption and damage. Post University doing a great job of just playing off MultiKels here, keeping Fort Lewis off point. MultiKels finally finds a pick here, as they were both stalled out for a while, but good job by MultiKels to turn around and grab a pick there on the Cassidy. Finally able to find a pick on FoxGod of Fort Lewis's tank, and now Post University just walking Fort Lewis back to their spawn. Why not? Almost at half percentage already, half point percentage. Post University has both healer ults and tank ult available. And Fort Lewis is still looking for their first DPS ult here. Gonna hop on board here with Fort Lewis. See what their Pharah has cooking here. Gonna need some big plays from their Pharah player here, but Nepal is a tough spot for Pharah, especially positionally wise. Gonna have to avoid the DPS poke while trying to also weave those rockets into point and try to find a pick on the back line. Ults come out here from Post University. Suzu and Post University is just gonna start walking. They're not gonna wait for Fort Lewis to walk on them. Pharah here, Iserhan, still trying to find a pick on the back line. Has Barrage and is just going to queue it as his teammates are falling, but it's not enough. Can the Bastion do any work here? And he can. He can find a pick. Can he find two? At 99% here, Fort Lewis manages to recover, but will only have a one team fight opportunity chance here. One team fight territory, as they call it. They lose one fight here, and Post University will be able to cap, and Fort Lewis won't have time to get back. And that will be the first map of this best of 5 NECC Division 8 Nationals playoffs, I should say. There are multiple games going on this evening. Wario Snorter here on the Bastion. Coming in, but gets picked off by the Mei. Great job there. As FoxGod trying to hold for Fort Lewis, not going to be able to. Players are falling left and right here. Healers are going to have to get on for stall for Fort Lewis. And it's just Saya now for Fort Lewis Gold. Manages to get picked off by MultiKel, and that's going to do it. Post University turning a very close first map 1 into a snowball there on map 2, and Post University gets their first win of this best of 5 series. And the MVP screen, MultiKel here doing massive work as Ramatra is just really taking a lot of space for his team, and also finding the picks when they need him to. That is Ramatra, especially with Suzu. The combo with Suzu ult from Kiriko just does such a big combination of damage, and that will be map 1 for Post University. Welcome in if you're just joining us to this NECC Division 8 Nationals playoffs. I am your caster, DeadlyDrew at Drew Gelati. Good to see everyone in here. That was map 1. Post University looking pretty dominant on that second map, but it was a lot closer story on the first one. So it'll be interesting to see how Fort Lewis here switches up their composition, if they do at all. And we are going to have a hybrid map for our second map choice here of our best of 3. And we will be right back with our second map of this, of this best of 5. Let me correct myself there. Best of 5, Post University up 1-0. And we'll see if they can make it 2 right after this. Stick with us. And welcome back. Just looking at the chat here and saw someone in chat named the Mountain Drew. As a fellow Drew, that is actually hysterical. Anyways, welcome back, everyone, to this NECC Division 8 Nationals playoffs here between Post University Eagles and Fort Lewis College Gold. All right, so it looks like Kings Row Hybrid is going to be our next map, and we are starting right now, so let's get into it. Just got to also change the score, as our previous map, Post University, did win. So the score is 1-0. University, there we go, sorry. Tuned out for a second as I had to change the score. Okay, score should be good now. Sorry about that. Both teams selecting heroes, and it'll be interesting to see what Fort Lewis comes out with on this hybrid map. And if I had to guess, you have MultiKel on the Ramatra again. Oh, we've got Krystal on Torbjorn, Moridin still sticking with May, Jojo on the Juno, and KingJackson on the Anna. And it looks like for Fort Lewis, we have Iserhan on the Ash, Fox God on the Farah, Oreo Snorter on the Zarya, Jeffy on the Moira, and Saya on the Kiriko. Post University in blue here, and they will be first up to defend this first Kings Row point. And if capped, then Fort Lewis will have to push the payload all the way to the end of the map. That is how the game mode works here on Hybrid. Going to start off here with Moridin, because the May wall here on Kings Row is very important. Got to have that really good luck and a little bit of good timing and a little bit of luck. If you can catch a team going in, Moridin tries the May wall there, but good bait by the Fort Lewis Zarya player, Oreo Snorter. Fox God finds a pick early on the Torbjorn turret, which is always good. Trying to disable that utility early on, so it's not poking them for the entire time that they're trying to fight over point here. Ramatra here for Post University. MultiKel has been a massive player for Post University here, making huge plays, taking a lot of space, and continues to do so here, as he is going to start punching away here on the Fort Lewis Zarya player here, doing a good job of keeping space here, on board with Jojo playing Juno. That rhymed. But it looks like the Farah and Ash player on the Fort Lewis side of things are going to be grabbing some picks and pushing Post University back here. Will they have time? Post University gets a pick on Iserhan on the Ash, but I don't think it's going to be enough time for them to stall, especially with the Farah player for Fort Lewis finding her ultimate. And that's going to be the first point cap there. A valiant defense by Post University. Almost took a full minute off board there. On board here with the Farah for Fort Lewis. Looking for a good barrage here in a decent spot. Got the May ice block out, but that Torbjorn turret doing some big poke damage. Just able to get back and get some heals here. This is a good spot for a Pharah ult here. Will he use it close or will he try to go behind them for a flank is the question. No shield tank for Post University, so a lot more of a clear opportunity here for the Pharah player to find a pick. Easier opportunity. And there it is. Big triple kill from Fox God there on the Pharah, combining with the... Oh no, he didn't combine with anyone there. The Juno ultimate for Post University went down, but it was not enough to keep everyone alive from the barrage there. So nice job by Fox God, and the Post University defense will have to find a way to shut down this Pharah. I'm not sure if a Torbjorn turret is going to be enough here. Speaking of Torbjorn, gonna hop right along here with the Torbjorn player for Post University. Has ultimate. Post University definitely gonna want to try to stop this payload before it gets to this checkpoint. Molten Core comes out, but oh, a big pick there as the Torbjorn player, Krystal, tried to swing and use Molten Core Iserhan on the Ashe, shutting him down. Mayalt comes out for Moridin, trying to stall. Not enough there. On board here with Saya playing the Kiriko. Don't think they're going to need to ult here. They'll lose the Moira, who's a little bit overextended, playing up with the tank there. But they do manage to push and do enough damage to Post University that they are continuing to snowball this payload right now. Post University going to have to find a way to stop this. Bob coming in, and Post University here not going to focus, just going to let Bob do his thing. It's a lot of poke damage here, and it's going to be enough poke damage that it's going to continue the snowball here for Fort Lewis. Post University here going to have to think about stall characters here pretty soon, as this payload is approaching the final checkpoint here. No composition swaps come out, just one from Krystal, swapping to Soldier 76. Jojo here, who was recently subbed in on healer for Post, but only Ramatra remains for Post University, and Fort Lewis pushing that payload home and having a pretty easy job of doing so, especially on that last checkpoint. They just continue to snowball the fights. And Post University on the defense not able to find any footing. Maybe a composition swap there, some sort of swap to just at least try to stop the bleeding. But none such were answered there. So it will be Post University now on the offense, trying to answer that push from Fort Lewis. And in order for them to keep this game in their favor, they are going to have to do the same and push that payload all the way to the end. And MultiKel here looks like we're going to be seeing a rare MultiKel on Reinhardt instead of the Ramatra. Love to see it. King's Row is definitely one of Reinhardt's strongest maps. Just have to be careful for the Mei walls, and obviously we as spectators can see that, but he does not know if they have a Mei or not, so going to have to play a little timid in the beginning here before going all out with the push. Just making sure that as a Rhine player you can identify what DPS they have, and that kind of determines how much you can push. So we've got Moridin on the Bastion, Krystal on the Symmetra, and KingJackson now. Usually his Lucio is the go-to, but he's feeling the Baptiste right now. A lot of splash healing, good healing to pocket the Reinhardt. MultiKel doing a nice job to combo there with the Symmetra. Get everyone top side and shield up. A lot of poke damage coming out from Fox God. Manages to find the kill on his priority target there, the Bastion. And now a couple more picks in Rain in there. A couple more picks for Iserhan on the Ashe, doing a nice job finding picks. Both DPS players from Fort Lewis doing a good job pressuring Post right now. Trying to find a backline pick where they can on Post backline, but also doing a good job of focusing the tanks and making sure the tank and making sure that MultiKel is staying at low health, not being able to be as aggressive as he was in the previous game. Nice pick there by the Moira from Fort Lewis. Post University being stalled by this Pharah, going to have to find a way to get her out of the sky so that they can have an easier route to push in from. Right now, it looks like they're going to try to rely on the Symmetra portal and the Rhine to guard the Bastion as he tries to take out this Symmetra. There's the portal in. Oh no, they're not going to even go high side. They're just going to go right in for point. Nice job by the Rhine to just use that Symmetra portal back and forth there. MultiKel, good job. But that Zarya full beam is no joke, and she melts right through Rhine's shield there. Oreo Snorter. Interesting name, but doing a great job on the Zarya, managing to keep a lot of energy, play positionally, not get caught overextended. Post University now on their third push on this first point. Oh, but right into the Symmetra portal. Post University, Fox God cleans up 4, finds 4 kills, and the Pharah that was not working for him on Nepal last game is finding some use here on this King's Row right now. A big 4-piece for the Pharah player for Fort Lewis. Krystal trying to push up and get aggressive with the Reinhardt, but falling to the poke damage from Fox God. Another pick by Iserhan on the Ashe onto the Kiriko of Post University. Ooh. And just rubbing the salt in the wound there, getting meleeed by Zarya, was MultiKel. Post University down to their final minute here on offense. And they need to push it all the way to the end of the map if they're going to tie Fort Lewis here. So no major comp changes coming out. Post University, credit to them. They're going to try to brute force this point from Fort Lewis. But the Zarya right now, Zarya player Oreo Snorter sitting with Grav. Oreo Snorter wants Post University to walk in so he can try to hit a fat Grav. Already at full Grav charge. Ultimate comes in from Bastion, but not very effective when no one is low on health. Oreo Snorter still aiding his DPS and poke damage, finding big picks on Post University right now with only 10 seconds left. Fox God rolls to the back, uses his ult, finds 2 major picks there. Zarya will use their ult as well. Oreo Snorter finding 2. And it's just a damage fest right now for Fort Lewis. And that will be their win on map number 2. So we have a tie series. And it'll be interesting to see who gets this MVP. I would guess it would be Oreo, right? Oh, no, it would be Fox. As, you know, just a fellow tank player myself. I always think it's going to be the one tank instead of the 2 now getting the MVP all the time. But no, as you can see there, DPS players still make a massive impact in Overwatch 2, and Fox God did there. So that is our second map of the evening, going to Fort Lewis Gold there. So we have a tie series here between Fort Lewis and Post University there. Post University sticking to their guns, but unfortunately not working on King's Row, so they'll have to find another way to get around Fort Lewis's defense, especially if it comes to another hybrid or push-pull map. So thank you very much for watching. I am your caster, DeadlyDrew at Drew Gelati, and we will be right back with game number 3 of this NECC Division 8 National Playoffs between Post University and Fort Lewis. Stick around for more collegiate esports action right after the break. and welcome back to this National Championship Round 1 NECC Division 8 playoffs. I am your caster, DeadlyDrew here. Hope everyone is doing excellent this evening, Friday night, and some collegiate esports action underway here. We've got Post-University Eagles and Fort Lewis tied up 1-1 here. We've got Coliseo coming up next here, and the game should be starting momentarily. Post-University had a real tough time of it on Kings Row, their defense and their offense lacking a little bit. So it will be up to Post-University here to come out with a different composition here, maybe go back to what was working for them on the first map, the MultiKel on the Ramatra and the Moridin on the May. But it'll be interesting to see here also how Fort Lewis, after that, to be honest, a little bit of a stomping on map number 2. It'll be interesting to see what they come out with. Will they be timid or will they be very aggressive again? All these questions will be answered right now as we go right into Coliseo for map 3 of this NECC Overwatch 2 National Championship, Round 1, Post-University versus Fort Lewis College, Spring 2025. We've got Fort Lewis and Post-University here, like I said, tied at 1-1 of this best-of-5 series. Both teams trying to reach that lucky number of 3 wins to advance in these playoff rounds. And yes, I do agree there, Mountain Drew. The Stadium League would also be a great addition to just esports in general. Very early, though. Very early. It's its first month, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of balancing and a lot of changes to the mode before people start really picking it up. But I am looking forward to seeing how Stadium interacts with the competitive Overwatch community. Alright, so it looks like we have MultiKel here, not going for the Ramatra pick, but for the Orisa on Coliseo. Orisa still being played, lower pick rate for sure, but still a great tank and still can definitely make an impact here. And it is going to look like Post-University is going to bring back the Moridin May and Krystal on the Torbjorn here. And the name of the game is to push the robot here in the middle to your opponent's spawn. Whoever gets that robot to, or the farthest, closer towards your opponent's spawn, is declared the winner after the time clock runs out here. Post-University getting aggressive right away here on this Havoc. Great job by the Moridin to box out the Havoc there. Wall him off from the healers, and Fort Lewis there is saying that's about it for that fight. Once you lose one tank in Overwatch 2, you're pretty much forced to reset unless you're in the thick of a team fight there. Smart play by Fort Lewis to back up there. No longer are we in the days of Overwatch 1, 2 tanks. Fights extend a lot longer now in Overwatch 2. Gameplay is a lot quicker, and the reaction timing has to be even better. As the Havoc player from Fort Lewis, Oreo Snorter, manages to find a crucial pick there onto Post-University's May player, Moridin. On board here still with MultiKel, staying alive, getting some great healing, but eventually falls. And the robot being pushed 32 meters there by Post-University will now go the other way for Fort Lewis. And it looks like we are going to be on board here with Saya for Fort Lewis on the Ana. Hitting those healing shots here close to ult. It'll be interesting to see who they nano. Will they go for the Havoc ultimate Ana boost, or will they go for the Pharah nano boost for the barrage damage? Good job getting that anti-nade onto MultiKels there as the Orisa. Going to have to use golden mode there for Orisa. Negate a lot of that damage. Huge freeze there by the Ana player. Advised not to use ult as Fort Lewis keeps it rolling. Oh, Jojo on June commits to the ult there, but unfortunately a little too late as his teammates had already fallen. Saya here on the Ana for Fort Lewis, still vying to hold ult as the snowball continues. Fox God and Iserhan on the DPS, managing to find some big picks. Fox God on the Pharah.
I find it funny because it really wasn't working for them that first round, the Soldier 76 nor the Pharah on the Nepal, but ever since then, the Soldier 76 Pharah has worked wonders for Fort Lewis. Could have just been a warm-up game for the Pharah player. Fox God will tune into him right now. He has been having a pretty big impact here as a DPS player for Fort Lewis College. Anna for Fort Lewis there. Oh my goodness, Fox God catches the Torbjorn trying to swing the corner, and a very smart play using the knockback there sends the Torbjorn on a trip back to spawn. Finding another one is Fox God, and will he find 3 here on MultiKel? Has ults here. Looks like the Ana for Fort Lewis here might combine for this last push here. Oh, nice molten core there. Almost said multi-kill. Molten core there from Krystal. That at least stops the bleeding for now, and they managed to take the robot back. Good molten core there. Right on the bridge so that Fort Lewis really couldn't continue their push. And now it is Post University trying to turn this match around. But here comes the justice from the Pharah player. Gets picked, but manages to do enough damage with the combination of the Pharah and Havoc ult. Anna still holding on to her ult here for Fort Lewis. Really does not want to let it go. Post University being pressured heavily here on board here with neontoxin. Going to have to put out some big heals here to try to win this team fight and turn this robot in the opposite direction for Post University. Nice job staying behind the Orisa shield there. Not overextending. Gonna have to watch out for this Pharah on the left though, as she is looking for a pick right now. Able to stay up. Nice job by neontoxin keeping everyone up for now. Icer Han though on the Soldier 76 doing big poke damage on the MultiKel. Both healing ults are obtained for Fort Lewis right now, and both are going to be used right here to try to stop the push from Post University. It's a back and forth tug of war here. And with those healing ults committed to and used, Fort Lewis manages to win the fight and turn the robot in the other direction. Icerhan finding some crucial picks as Soldier 76 for Fort Lewis. Post University now going to have to come back here to defend against a Soldier 76 ult that will most likely be incoming here. Post University has both healer ults of their own now. Will they double commit as Fort Lewis did with their support ults? Kitsune comes out from neontoxin and Post University here. Gonna have to walk around the Havoc wall. Does a good job to block off some damage. Neontoxin getting aggressive there, trying to help his tank player out finish that Havoc for Fort Lewis. A lot of critical players need healing for Post. And the neontoxin manages to find the heals there as his teammates were a little bit spread out from him. Krystal here for Post University on the Torbjorn. Has Molten Core in pocket. Will Shivida use it here as the Havoc player for Fort Lewis tries to get in for a flank. Here comes Sights, going to try to deny the Soldier 76 the space, but no, it is the Havoc player that gets in and does big damage and helps the Soldier 76 for Fort Lewis finish the Torbjorn before going down. Fort Lewis still pushing this robot forward here as the Moira player for Fort Lewis, Jeffy, coming up on his ult there. MultiKel going to answer with his own ult there to try to prevent Fort Lewis from taking ground. It's a big tug of war once again. Ultimates going back and forth here. Fort Lewis College able to stay alive, have enough players alive to keep the robot going. You don't necessarily need players near the robot, you just have to capture it and it'll walk on its own. Fort Lewis here getting very close to finishing this game of tug of war. Moira ult coming in, just going to do some massive poke damage. Krystal tries to get on point but is unable to touch, and Fort Lewis ends up pushing the robot all the way to Post University's end of the map on Coliseum. Foxgood with the MVP for Fort Lewis. And Fort Lewis College is one game away from advancing to the next round of these NECC Division 8 National Championship playoffs. Close game there, back and forth.
Ultimately, it is a big team deathmatch when you look at it there, and you want to be getting those picks, those big crucial picks when that robot is in those tight areas, especially on the bridge and underneath the map on Coliseum. And Fort Lewis was able to do that, keep the pressure on Post University, and just keep locking in those picks. Foxgood and Iserhan. Foxgood on the Pharah doing massive poke damage, and Post University going to have to find an answer to Foxgod's Pharah, if they're going to tie this series up. But for now, Fort Lewis up 2-1, putting the pressure on Post University to make a comeback. Will they be able to do it? Find out after this quick break. Map number 3 coming up next. Sorry, map number 4 coming up next. These games move quick. And welcome back, your caster here, DeadlyDrew at Drew Gelati. Hope everyone is having a fantastic Friday evening. We have some more collegiate esports action up for you next here with our game number 4, map number 4, I should say, of this best of 5 series. Fort Lewis up in this best of 5 series, 2-1 for Post University Eagles. It'll be interesting to see how these Eagles respond and if they have identified any crucial targets that they may want to focus in this game. Fox God's Farah for Fort Lewis has been devastating, to say the least. And MultiKel's Ramatra has been extremely good too, and it looks like Fort Lewis's strategy right now is to use the range poke damage of Fox God's Farah and try to kind of disable MultiKel from doing a lot, because obviously it's hard to hit a Farah. It's almost impossible to hit a Farah as a Ramatra. So that looks like the strategy they're going with. It looks like MultiKel tried to go with the Orisa there to try to dampen the Farah's damage, but it was not enough. So we will see how Post University answers here on New Junk City, which is going to be our map number 4 here for these NECC Division 8 Nationals playoffs for Overwatch 2. And we are about to hop in here to New Junk City, which will be map number 4. And we will be starting momentarily. Both teams are readying up here. So once the game begins, we will hop right into the match. Post University looking to tie this series up and avoid elimination here. Can they do it? Find out right after this quick break, and then we'll hop right into New Junk City, map 4, coming up next. And welcome back to this best of 5 playoffs between Fort Lewis Gold College and Post University Eagles. We've got Post University down 1-2 here, trying to tie it up against Fort Lewis, stave off elimination in these NECC Division 8 Nationals playoffs.
We're going to start out here with Post University as they need to gain some ground here. And to no surprise, Fox God is coming out with the Farah for Fort Lewis. It'll be up to Post University here to solve that issue. And it looks like MultiKel here been trying to find the right tank to do it. Orisa was not the play last game. Had a good idea of using Orisa, but it just did not work out in his favor. So going to swap on to the Mauga here. So here we go. Post University rolling out with a very, very kind of up-in-your-face aggressive comp here with the Reaper, the Mauga, and the Symmetra. On board here with MultiKel. Going to charge in. Has to be careful about getting pinned, though. There is a active Reinhardt. And Reinhardt gets damaged enough by the Reaper player Moridin of Post University. Goes down there. Post University doing a good job of pressuring Fort Lewis early on there, but the Mercy gets a big res for Fort Lewis there. Nice job by Saya of Fort Lewis to get in there and get that Reinhardt up. Moridin, though, continuing to do big damage on the Reaper here, finding picks. Eventually taken out by Fox God's Farah there. On board with Krystal also getting taken out. And that will be first cap for Fort Lewis. Going to have to regroup here is Post University and give it another try here. It looked like they were winning that fight, but the crucial or the critical point in that fight was the Mercy getting the res off there. Unfortunate for Post University because they were winning it. But once that Mercy gets that res off, it can turn the tide of fights, and we witnessed it right there. So Post University going to have to put on some big pressure here against Oreo Snorter's Reinhardt, as they are doing a good job of holding the front access point of this map. Post University speeding underneath thanks to KingJackson's Lucio speed boost. Big damage coming out from MultiKel's Mauga there, as neontoxin has to avoid the Sphera, but oh! It's FoxGod getting right up in his face. Says here, have a rocket. FoxGod finding a lot of success on this Sphera, just doing big poke damage to Post. Post University's healers not able to soak all that damage. Coming up on the first capture point here for New Junk City. Both teams need 3 to capture to finish the game. And that will be Fort Lewis's first 100% cap. Now the point will change here, and Post University will get another chance to get into the second point and get in on defense. Try to start this one on defense. They've been trying very hard to get these picks that they need on Fort Lewis. But if they can at least gain control, the first control of the point, and it may give them the opportunity to start snowballing. But there's Oreo Snorter finding the Reaper out of Wraith. Here comes a pin in from Oreo Snorter, finds 2 of the DPS players. High Noon comes out from Iserhan, just putting pressure on and keeping Post University off the point. Didn't really even need to use it there, as Oreo Snorter finds 2 big crucial picks there on 2 Post University's DPS players, Moridin and Krystal. Gonna hop on board once again here with Post University. MultiKel ready to amp it up and drop the beat on KingJackson here now. KingJackson, oh, finds an unfortunate pin. Thought he was behind the Mauga, but ends up getting stuck and pinned by the opposing tank, Oreo Snorter. Mauga taking a lot of damage from Post University, and Post University very split apart right now. Fort Lewis finding the cleanup there. As another crucial point in that fight was KingJackson had ult in his pocket, but got pinned out by the Reinhardt of Fort Lewis. Post University trying to stay together while taking a ton of poke damage here. And it looks like the Lucio's going to try to get touch on 99, but it's not going to be enough. Mauga has to touch here. And that's going to be the end of that second point. Post University down to their last point here. Gonna have to make a big comeback, as Fort Lewis has them on series point and map point here. No swaps coming out. Post University has full ults here. Should be able to establish a defensive setting on this third point. They need to capture the next 3 points in a row and stave off this Fort Lewis DPS tide if they want to find themselves in a game number 5. Big picks. No picks come out there. Everyone's so low health, but no picks come out yet. Now the MultiKel on Mauga. So many people rhyme. Moridin on May, MultiKel on Mauga. Post University trying to find their picks, but the Mercy Res of Saya keeps the fight going for Fort Lewis. MultiKel doing everything he can right now to try to keep this Reinhardt at bay, but it's hard to keep a Reinhardt at bay when he has Shatter in his pocket. Going to pin him back out of position. No healers in range. Trying to sprint back is MultiKel. Unable to do so. Post University, though, does a great job of stalling out point. 58%. Neontoxin does have ult on the Kiriko. Moridin has die on the Reaper for Post University, so some big ults can make an impact for this point. And Post University going to need to secure this one to continue this game. On board with neotoxin. Oh no, KingJackson though gets picked early on again. Post University having some trouble staying grouped up out of spawn, as the poke damage from Fox God's Pharah and Icer Hans Cassidy right now for Fort Lewis is doing a lot to Post University's backline, which is keeping them from staying together on these pushes. Kitsune coming out here as Post University is going to need to get some big picks. Cassidy ult comes out, Deadeye gets his picks. Fox God able to stay alive in this Pharmacy combo, Pharah Mercy combo. And that is a team kill for Fort Lewis. No one in touching distance for Post University. And that is going to do it. Congratulations to Fort Lewis as they move on in these NECC Division 8 Championship National Playoffs. And the MVP, Icer Han on the DPS, Cassidy. GG's come out from both teams. It was a GG's indeed. Post University going up 1-0. But then Fort Lewis seemed to wake up. Their DPS players really making an impact.
And we're able to secure them those last 3 maps. So that is it. Post University ends up falling to Fort Lewis 3-1 in the best of 5 series. GG's to both teams. Great effort. And just love to see some competitive esports action. All these athletes putting in the time to practice their characters, their heroes, and their strategies. And there will always be time for another competitive season, which will be coming up very soon. So before we end this stream, just want to say a huge shout out and thank you to Post University for allowing me to cast these amazing esport games. It is always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I hope you enjoy your weekend. As always, this has been your caster, DeadlyDrew, at Drew Gelati, at me there on X. I enjoy your comments, constructive criticism, and just talking about games in general. Thank you, everyone, for watching this presentation of esports action from Post University tonight. GG's unfortunately didn't go their way, but next time, hopefully it will. GG's, everyone. Have a good night. We'll talk to you next time. Drew out.